In this video, I talk about whether you are cheating when you use an airbrush. I've seen this question before, I've been asked several times, and it kind of goes like this. Is it cheating to use an airbrush? And unlike most questions in life, the answer is not, it depends. The answer is no. Just no. All right, so there's a little bit more to it than that, but in my opinion, not much more. Some people will ask that question and say, well, you know, if you're using an airbrushing, you're not really, painting, you're just spraying. It's not. It seems kind of like a ridiculous argument. Now, could it be cheating to be using an airbrush if you are entering a paint contest that says no using an airbrush because it's called the wet blend till your arms fall off paint contest or whatever? Then yeah, if you were to airbrush in the contest that in the rules said no using the airbrush, then yeah, that would be cheating as it is actually defined by Webster's Dictionary or whatever. So yeah, in that situation, airbrushing is totally cheating. In all of the other situations, it's not. Airbrushing is just a tool. The airbrush itself is a very simple tool. There's a hose and a needle and the cup that you put the paint in, and it's a suction situation that draws the paint into the stream and sprays it, atomizes it, whatever. There's science involved. I'm not an airbrush scientist, but the point of the matter is that there's no reason not to use an airbrush if you're interested in doing so. If someone says to you, yeah, well, it's kind of cheap because you use an airbrush, ask them if they're using, like specifically designed miniature paints like from Citadel or Vallejo or Reaper, or whether they're using, stuff that they found on the ground or, stuff from Walmart. Or ask them if they're using, like fancy sable brushes or even brushes made out of, fancy schmancy scientific nylon, or whether they painted their models, as our ancestors did with sticks that they, found on the ground. In my mind, if someone tells you that airbrushing is cheating, they probably kind of wish that they had an airbrush of their own. And it's not like they're crazy expensive. They just maybe are, in a situation that they can't, have one in their apartment or in their home, or they don't have the right place for it, or it's noisy and scares the cat, which my old compressor technically did. But, me and the cats, we just kind of soldiered on. The fact is that when someone's telling you, hey, it's not cool when you're doing that, it's generally in these situations, in relation to paint like this, it's because they probably kind of like doing it the way they're doing it. They like being fancy with the wet blending and doing all that. And that's great. And they should, keep on with their bad selves. But when you then come up and show them something that you did relatively quickly with an airbrush, and you can do amazing looking blending relatively quickly with an airbrush. These are some Chaos Warriors. They're their cloaks. That's all airbrush. That's just me priming them black and then priming them white from above, kind of like at a 45-degree angle, and then it's just a wash over the gradient that I've created. The biggest thing about that makes it cheating to use an airbrush, if anyone's kind of trying to sell you that plot of land, is that it really is easy to make gradients, or pretty easy to make gradients. It's still not, just push a button and you're done. You have to have some patience. You have to have some skill for doing that kind of stuff with it. You have to learn a little bit, but it is way easier to crank through a whole bunch of cloaks on evil Chaos Warrior dudes and just quickly, once you understand how to make the gradient, just do it, than it would be to, say, wet blend that entire thing over and over and over again. I think there's like a 10 or a dozen of those guys in my army. It would take a lot longer, which is why I did it with an airbrush. It would also take a lot longer to try to paint them with my pinkies. That's why I use a brush that has bristles. That's why you use paints that are not just stuff that you have to make outside, by grinding up roots and berries and whatever to get the colors you need. Anything that we do as a civilized society to invent and to make new technologies, those things are designed to make life easier. they're not cheating. It's not cheating that you refrigerate your food as opposed to leaving it in some sort of box with ice that you had to carry from a frozen river. You know what I mean? It's just the same type of deal. The concept is ridiculous that to sit down and use an airbrush, like when I first started doing it, my whole plan was I want an airbrush just because I want to be able to prime during the very long Wisconsin winters. But as I got past that, and I still do it obviously, but as I got past that level of skill and started moving into, well, now I think I can make some cool gradients and do some sort of neat stuff like that, then it goes on from there. Eventually you start to move into being able to do object source lighting with your, airbrush. You get to be able to do highlighting and things like that. There are some people who will even paint details, like pretty surprisingly good details with an airbrush. I'm nowhere near there. But I don't look at any of that stuff as cheating. It's just basically I'm using a new tool, and it's not even like it's, a brand new 2017 tool. Airbrushes have been around for a while. It's not cheating to use them when you're painting your models. So when someone says that to you, just smile and nod and say, "Oh, okay." And there's no reason to get into that argument. Just be like, this is a tip for life. Just go, oh, okay. And then just go on about your daily, whatever, and paint some more models. If you're interested in airbrushing, you can do some amazing stuff. You can get more work done. You can paint bigger vehicles with less brush strokes, all that kind of stuff. You can do more gradients. You can start to get into highlighting, all the things I've mentioned, and it's not cheating when you do that because it's not like a robot that you just turn on and it does the work for you. You still have to have the skill. If you're using the right kind of airbrush, gravity fed, with a 2-stage, switch, understanding how to use that trigger when you're doing stuff to feather it so you get just a little bit as opposed to too much, and just even knowing how to clean the things can take a little bit of skill. All of that, when you have to learn that, and there's that, kind of thing that you have to get over, that hump you have to get over to learn it, that's something that uses your brain, and you learn a new skill. And I just don't ever think a new skill is cheating. Should not eat Burger King before making a video. It gets caught in my throat.